Hello and welcome back to the Arctic Beyond, and welcome back to my film series covering films set in and around the Arctic. Let's talk about The Thaw, a little-seen 2009 film about a scientific expedition to the Canadian Arctic that threatens to unleash a deadly global pandemic. Remember those? All films starring Val Kilmer at this point need to be cherished. If you don't really know about his current state of health, I really recommend to check out the documentary Val. It covers his career and how he's currently doing, and I do recommend checking that out. And Val Kilmer, it's a good job because he is absolutely the best part of this film. He steals every scene that he is in. He is clearly operating with an aura and a magnitude that no one else can replicate. You feel when Val Kilmer is on the screen. He is just that degree of much better a screen presence, leading man and actor than anyone else is in the film. Unfortunately though, it does in total amount to a bit of time at the beginning and a bit of time at the end. He is not really one of the principal characters of the film. He does appear in many of the most important scenes at the beginning and the end, and he's great in those scenes, but largely the runtime of the film does not include him. So what else goes on? Well, the bulk of the film follows a group of students studying environmental science that are going to Val Kilmer's scientific expedition to help with the project that's currently ongoing. Things go terribly wrong, as you might imagine. Unfortunately, this main group of characters is largely insufferable. It's as if the writers were confusing teenage high schoolers with university graduates. None of the actors themselves are bad at their jobs. No one here puts in a bad performance. They all do fine with the very poor material that they are given. But the script is not a good one. The main character of the film plays Val Kilmer's daughter, and it's a perfect example of the script really not doing a good job. You see, her character is actually the only non-scientist in the plot of the story. She is portrayed initially as a spoiled brat who hates her dad and is generally a bit of a dropout, someone who doesn't really know where their life is going. Her dad wants to impress her with the work that he is doing, so he calls her out to the field site, says, "Come with these other students I've invited out, you can see what I'm doing, and we can, you can be impressed, and we can rebuild a relationship from there." But when things go suddenly very wrong, she turns all of a sudden from this spoiled brat into this born leader who also has an innate understanding of all the crazy science that is going on. And at the same moment that she turns into a born leader, the scientists all turn into these irrational cowards. The film might be making some kind of anti-intellectual statement here, but more likely it's just being pretty dumb. The horror of The Thaw, as it is a horror film, it relies heavily on really gruesome, grotesque body horror. The infection that is released at this field site begins infecting people. The infection moves throughout their bodies and is slowly killing them. A lot of credit does have to go to this effects team for the job they did with a small budget, whether it was they're dealing with these microscopic creatures infecting people or they're dealing with a polar bear. But although the effects team did a fantastic job, the writer and the director definitely seem to think that this effect is a lot scarier than it actually is. Yes, it is gross and it is disturbing to see this infection work through people and in some cases literally erupt out of them. It is pretty gross. But shots are reused and the same tropes are just constantly reused and reused. And after a time, the scare just wears off. You just keep seeing the same things over and over, and nothing so new gets presented to you, and it just becomes a bit like, okay, well, I've seen that before, I know what's going to happen, what next, and then nothing comes next. I do feel for one character in particular throughout the film, that is the character of Ling. She is the single most abused character throughout the film. Ling is the character which really acts as the audience surrogate for experiencing the infection from beginning to end. But because of that, because the film intends to have us really see what it can do at every single stage of the infection, it becomes really almost cruel. You see her just slowly dying throughout the film. That in itself is, is an effective tool for creating horror and tension. But it's the fact that the reactions of the people around her is more akin to a shrug. People check in occasionally on her, and every time you can see, oh my Jesus Christ, like she is in a terrible state, people kind of like, oh no, well that's not good. Oh, see you later, Link. Oh dear, that wasn't good. It really feels like they don't like Link. They don't care about Link. That they're more, oh, that might affect us in the end. And it felt unnecessarily cruel towards that character. That's really what I felt. I didn't feel scared when I was seeing what was happening to Link. It felt upsetting, and not in a way that the film, I think, intended. The most realistic moment from any of the characters is the guy he's the real douchebag of the group, and he has to make a choice at one point, which is whether to save his penis or risk dooming all those around him, and he chooses to save his penis. Overall, this is quite a messy film. The editing is really, really choppy. There are flashbacks inserted here and there, and in fact, the film seems to suggest, because of an opening montage, this pandemic is going to infect the rest of the world, and then this is what caused that. I hope that's not the case, because if so, it really does make completely emotionally worthless if we literally are just watching, oh, so I guess nothing that happens in this film actually matters. So maybe the opening montage is covering a different pandemic, and then this is saying it could happen again, so let's stop that happening again. I think I might be giving the film a little bit too much credit there, but I hope that is, in fact, that's the headcanon for what I think the film is trying to do, because then it wasn't just a complete waste of time. The film does harbour a genuine environmental message about the unintended impacts of climate change, the perils of messing with nature that we were never ever meant to come into contact with, and the embitterment of the scientific community against a general public that is constantly apathetic towards the dangers that they are trying to highlight. Those messages are really what Val Kilmer's character is portraying. That's really the purpose of Val Kilmer's character, is to portray this dread of the scientific community and the anger of the scientific community against the rest of the world. And that's a pretty complex message that the rest of the film really doesn't live up to. And that's why Val Kilmer is in fact the best character. He gets the best writing as well. That's why Val Kilmer's character's moments absolutely the highlight of the film, along with the fantastic visual effects. You could honestly probably turn this film into a really, really good 30 to 40 minute short film, instead of what turns out to be a pretty mediocre 90-minute film. So that's my thoughts on The Thaw. Probably one of the only people to ever put this much thought into that film since it was released. But I hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know how much you love Val Kilmer down in the comments below. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.